What's going on, everybody? Triple Crown 24 back today on a Superfractor Sunday. Big shout out to Bean's Blog Card Blog for the name of this video. He came up with it for me. And as the title suggests, I have a new Superfractor that came in the mail. It actually came in yesterday, but I'm pre-recording this video. And I decided I wanted to do a little showcase with it, tell some stories, have a little fun with it. So that's exactly what I'm going to do. So hopefully you will enjoy this video. Let me rewind the clock a little bit back to when I first started getting into the hobby. This is over a decade ago now, and this is really when the Superfractor was kind of in its infant stages. There wasn't as many one-of-ones in the hobby as there is today, but throughout time in the hobby, and it's been a long time in hobby years, I would say, since the Superfractor came around. It's just one of those cards that I feel has always kept its same prestige or its mystique to it. There's just something about it that has always captured my attention. And I don't know if that's a sentiment that is shared across the hobby. I would love to hear what other people think. What are they, is the Superfractor something that is still very special to you? What are your experiences with Superfractors? Have you ever pulled one? Have you ever owned one? I'm very curious to kind of hear other opinions about it. But in my personal experience, it's always been kind of this holy grail card of sorts to own one. And really just any Superfractor of any player. So for years and years, I've always wanted to own one, and it was kind of one of those searches that I'm like, well, I have the money to do it today. Let me see if there's anything available. Okay, there's nothing available. I'll go buy something else instead. So it was one of those things that I guess I didn't take serious enough where I can make a play on one. And about 2 years ago, I decided that, you know what, I'm not going to just be casual about this. I'm going to actually get serious and try to secure one. I looked at many different players, and this was before I was really a super collector. Settled on Miggy, that I wanted to get a Miggy Superfractor, and it was probably right around 2 years ago now. It might even be like exactly 2 years ago, now that I think about it, that I was able to acquire this. And this is one that I still remember the day I got it in the mail. I'm sure many of you share that sentiment where there's certain mail days that you just remember very vividly. This is one of those for me, and that would be the 2018 Bowman Chrome Superfractor. I thought I got an incredible deal on it. The seller was very friendly. We were able to talk about it, and it meant a lot to me, and it still means a lot to me to this day. The kind of aura around it still feels as magical as the day that I first bought it, and I think that's just really cool. So you see the 1-on-1 there on the back, but of course, the pattern on the front, it really pops on this particular card as well. So just very happy to own it. And so I wasn't really planning on picking up any more after that, but I found kind of a cheaper alternative to the Superfractor, and that would be the gold vinyl. So Panini doesn't have the license, or I guess the rights to the name like fractor of any kind. So no X-fractors, no refractors, no Superfractors, none of that. So instead they have the Prisms, and they released the Prism brand back in 2012 for all sports. From there, when Topps eventually lost the licensing for football, they really, I would say, pushed Prism to kind of that next level, where then it kind of became the Chromium style card premier brand for basketball and football in particular. Now baseball, of course, Panini does put out their products as well, but the lack of team licensing is what has been kind of a deterrent to a lot of people, and therefore a lot of Panini cards don't do as well in the secondary market. And that kind of opened the door for me to acquire this one. This is actually, it's not technically a Superfractor because it's not a Topps card, but this is the 2019 Donruss Optic Gold Vinyl Miguel Cabrera. You can see it's got the really sweet 1-of-1 Panini font on the back. And to me, it's pretty much the same. I mean, I'll put these two together, and you tell me what the difference is in terms of like the colors and the patterns. So, I mean, the gold vinyl, to me, is pretty much a Superfractor. So I will loosely call it one. I know that it's technically not one, but it's, it's still real to me. So there'll be some people who remember that video. Okay, so that was the second one I picked up. The third one, this is one that I remembered exactly where I was when I purchased it. The story behind this one was I was actually at the car dealership getting an oil change and a tire rotation, and I had just downloaded the Tapatalk app that you can use to access various forums, including Blowout. And it just so happened that that day was the first day that I used it. I went into the buy, sell, trade section to look for card inventory. And sure enough, I actually stumbled across a Superfractor instead. So this one is actually called a foil fractor. It is a 2018 Bowman Platinum. This was $60 shipped, which I mean, I was very stunned to see it at that price. The guy didn't put a price when he first asked, so I PM'd him and said, well, what's the price on this? And when he said 60, there was like no ifs, ands, or buts about it. I said, you got a deal. Let me know your PayPal. So I got this one. The foil fractor is really cool. It doesn't have like the circular pattern. It's more of a square pattern. Let me see if I can get that on camera. You can kind of see that when those little beams of light come together, they kind of make little squares, and then they come together to form little vertices. So not the circular, the one that you would see here on a regular Bowman Superfractor, but still kind of the same concept. I'm not quite sure why. It might be because this isn't a chromium card. It's a regular paper card, but they call it a foil fractor because there is a layer of foil on there that gives it the gold shine and the little pattern that goes along with it. So I acquired that one, and it was just one of those where the right deal struck. This next one I acquired earlier in the year. This is again a gold vinyl from 2020 Select. I thought this image was absolutely fantastic. I actually picked this up recently, and I got this in on Friday. This is the Mosaic Blue, which I absolutely love this card. And it kind of looks like it's from the exact same photo, just a little bit later in the swing. I feel like Panini is using like one photo of Cabrera this year, but it's a pretty solid photo, so I won't complain or anything. I got this one, and this one was under 100 shipped at auction. And if you look at the prices of select boxes, I'm not sure what they are now. Maybe they've come down a little bit. But at the time that I bought this, it was still a relatively new product. And I think they were like $200 a box. So they get essentially a Superfractor. I know it's a gold vinyl, but to get one of those for less than half the price of a hobby box of a guy who's a future Hall of Famer, I just thought that was an incredible value. So I went ahead and picked that one up. Now, for the longest time, I've been looking kind of for another Topps Superfractor, and I'm kind of one of the few Cabrera collectors that I know that is more into the Panini stuff. A lot of the other guys really prefer the licensed stuff, and I mean, everybody's got their own interests. It's good for me because it means I have less competition on a lot of those cards, and I can get better deals on them. This one here popped up on Monday night this past week, and there was at one point 4 competing offers against me on this, and I got very nervous. The buy it now price wasn't out of, I wouldn't say it was unrealistic by any means, especially if you see what the cards are going for from this particular product in terms of singles, especially when it first came out. But eventually I decided I can't take a chance on this. So I messaged the seller and said, hey, I'm going to need like 1 to 2 days to pay for this. Is there any chance I can just commit to buy it right now for your full buy it now price? And then you can, I'll pay you, check my feedback, I'm good for it. And the seller was very, very kind about it. We actually had a pretty good conversation afterwards for the next couple of days. Kind of just about collecting, not anything too in depth, but it was solid. It's a nice buying experience that I had with this seller, so highly recommend them. And it arrived yesterday, very well packaged. I appreciate the level of care that was put into it. This seller knew how much the card meant to me, and that to me was just it meant a lot that they took the time to package it as well as they did it. It's the small things that mean a lot to me. So a little hint as to what it is. I've picked up these 3 so far in the First rendition of the Ben Baller Topps Chrome. So it's not too much different from a regular Topps Chrome. I should have one here somewhere. Here's an X-Fractor from 2020 Topps Chrome I just got in a couple days ago. So you can see here the name plate is just a little bit different. It's got the jewels up here as well. The colors on the parallels don't go down here. It's just kind of like a white gradient where the team logo is. So that's kind of the difference. And then, of course, the Ben Baller chain at the top as well. But to add to that rainbow, I'll take these off screen because I want to get a shot of these 5 together, is the Superfractor. Now, I must say this one doesn't pop as well. In fact, it's really difficult for me to even get it on camera here. I tried this once before outside of the One Touch and Perfect Fit sleeve, but it just doesn't really pop up. But there you see the 101 on the back. This is actually my first Topps Superfractor. So I have the Bowman ones. Those, I feel like the Bowman ones are actually, they hold a little less of a premium than the Topps ones, but I mean, Topps Chrome Supers are, they're kind of the cream of the crop in terms of Superfractors from what I've seen in terms of secondary market behavior. Finest Superfractors are also very much up there. They're kind of in that second tier. I think I would say along the same lines as probably the Bowman Chromes. But to get a Topps Chrome Super is, yeah, it's difficult to put into words how excited I was about this, and I wish that the camera would do it more justice here today. I did put up a pretty nice picture on Instagram of it, so you can get a better look of it there if you follow me on Instagram. But it's awesome. Like I said, I really wish you guys could see it for all of its beauty in person, but I'm just having some struggles with the camera. And I love the 2020 image as well on the Miggy card. I've talked about it many times before, so to get that in a Superfractor of any kind is just, it's awesome. I'm so excited. So there you have it, the big 5 there. And I'll leave you with that. So thank you so much for tuning in, especially if you stayed all the way till the end to hear me talk about my collection and all the stories that kind of went along with it, coming along for the journey with me. I will be back later in the week, probably with some PSA stuff. I've got some other stuff to show off as well, so be sure to see you then. Until then, stay safe, have a good one, be kind.